This edition of the Bio Report is brought to you by the California Technology Council, providing discounts on products and services essential to every startup. For more information, visit californiatechnology.org/member benefits. I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. Despite a rapid advance of technology, there's been little change in the preclinical drug development process. Vium is hoping to change that by using sensors, automation, and bioinformatics to change the way data is gathered in the preclinical process to fuel better and faster decisions about the potential value of an experimental drug. We spoke to Tim Robertson, co-founder and CEO of Vium, and Joe Betts-Lacroix, co-founder and CTO of Vium, about the company, how it's hoping to change the preclinical drug development process, and why that's essential. Tim, Joe, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Daniel.
We're going to talk about Vium and how it's seeking to change the early portion of the drug development process. Despite the dramatic development in technology over the years, I take it you'd argue that little has changed in preclinical research. How much change has there been, and to what extent has this evolved or not evolved?
Well, I think there's been tremendous change on the biology side. You look at technologies beginning with the first genetically engineered mice, going through the ability to generate humanized animal models today, the incredible things that are possible with technologies like CRISPR-Cas9. And we really have a tremendous capability to make much more advanced in vivo models of disease than we ever have before. What hasn't changed is how we acquire the data and how we analyze the data. You'll have these cases where you might have, let's talk about a mouse with a humanized immune system, where you've taken a mouse that has no immune system, you've injected hematopoietic stem cells, and that's grafted into the animal now so that it actually has humanized antibodies in it. Well, that mouse represents a tremendous effort to produce, yet you'll still have people going around making subjective observations, scoring it on, say, a 5-point scale, writing that down on a clipboard, later transcribing it into a computer, and then writing up a report based on that. It's that part of the process that we really sought out to make much better with Vium.
Well, Vium describes itself as the first living informatics company. What do you mean by that?
Well, informatics is transforming healthcare. And the things we're able to find with population medicine, it's worked its way into clinical trials now, where we're able to, based on all the data we acquire, make much more intelligent decisions, not just about which compounds to take forward, but even how to adapt within a particular clinical trial. But informatics has not made its way into the preclinical space much at all. And that's what we mean by living informatics. It's the data that's generated from living systems and how we use that data to develop drugs more effectively.
What problems in the drug development process would you say Vium is seeking to address?
Well, in overall drug development process, it's a pretty long stretch from the first identification of mechanisms and leads all the way through to humans. Where the most money is spent in the entire drug development process, and where some people say the most money is wasted, is in phase 3 clinical trials. This is Joe Betts-Lacroix, by the way. The most crucial thing to figure out is which drug to take into phase 3 clinicals, because they're huge operations and super expensive, and the decision criteria that go into deciding whether these drugs should go forward are often based heavily on the animal data. and it's important that the animal data be of the highest quality, be auditable to go back over and be able to uncover, figure out which effects were part of any side effects that were witnessed, et cetera. And so it's our job to make sure that data is the best it could possibly be.
There's long been talk that animal models really aren't terribly good at predicting how a drug would act in humans. By getting this new level of detail and data, are you improving those as in terms of quality as predictive of how a drug might act in a human?
This is Tim. That's fully our intent. Of course, rodents aren't humans, although we do have quite a lot of genetic overlap with rodents. Large portions of our DNA is common. And so rodents will never be perfect models of human disease, but we think that they can be better. That by looking more carefully, by getting better data out of these animal models, that we can better choose which drugs to take on to humans. And, the latest statistics I've seen are that 8% of drugs that go into human studies end up getting approved. Tremendously awful attrition rate and huge resources devoted to that, not to mention the human cost of people in clinical trials who are praying for a miracle drug that doesn't do what we want it to do. If we can just get marginally better drugs into human clinical trials, that has enormous implications for the pharmaceutical industry and for medicine in general.
Well, take a step back, if you would. How did Vium come about, and how did the two of you start working together?
Well, Tim and I are both crossovers between sort of Silicon Valley tech people and having a fair amount of experience in either biology or healthcare. And by the good hand of fortune, happened to be neighbors in Belmont, California. And we were at the same point in our career around the same time and batting around company ideas. And because we, having done a number of projects together, just on the local civic leadership and so on, we decided we want to found a company together. And this is the one that really resonated with both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joe was running a nonprofit called the Health Extension Foundation, looking at aging and aging-related diseases. And in the course of this, he talked to many of the top aging researchers as they described their work. And we started to hear a recurring theme that they were hesitant to do animal studies because they were too expensive, they were difficult to execute, that the data that came out was of questionable value. And we just wondered why that was. So as entrepreneurs, we started digging into it. We started visiting all the vivariums in the area, talking to the vets. My wife's a veterinarian, so that was kind of our into a lot of these facilities. And we were just amazed as we walked in and saw these enormous operations with virtually no computers anywhere in them. And one of the first aha moments was when we were talking to the head of the UCSF facility, and we did an analysis of their operations and found that a significant portion of their resources, which works out to millions of dollars a year, is devoted to just making sure that the animals are alive every day. And as tech people, we said, well, we can make a sensor that'll tell you if your animals are alive or not. That's a fully solvable technology problem. And that sort of laid the groundwork for this idea of using sensors to understand what's going on with animals at a much deeper level.
You've developed several platforms. I thought you could explain what Vium does by walking through each of these and how they work. The first is the digital vivarium. What is that, and how does that work?
So this is Joe. Our digital vivarium is a vivarium that is in some ways just like all the other vivariums that are performing research on rodents, except that we have fitted it out with technology so that we're paying attention to every single animal in every single cage, and also up and down the whole flow inside our vivarium. We are tracking precise temperatures in rooms and cages. We're logging the procedures that the staff in there are performing. on a moment-by-moment basis, and streamlining the whole process using our digital infrastructure.
What about the Vium cloud?
So the Vium cloud is where we perform all of our digital operations. It expands all the way from the very bottom of the process in our vivarium. All of the data from every cage and all the rooms are streamed up into the cloud. And there our algorithms process the data, draw conclusions from it, and present these data to our customers. That's where the customers can design their experiments, watch their experiments unfolding, and also analyze the results and figure out how to make their decisions.
This is really a novel way to run preclinical studies. What we've done is taken a process which normally requires close interaction between people. The experimenter will meet with the person running the experiment, the CRO typically, and we've put that whole thing online. So it looks much more like a software as a service. And that allows things to go much faster cycle times, so that researchers can move through compounds more rapidly.
You also have an online research suite. What is that?
So our online research suite is 3 different applications that all seamlessly work together. The first is the study designer that allows a researcher to go on and be able to set the parameters of the experiment they need to run, and be able to have that interaction in real time so they can add features, remove features, and fit a study to their needs and to their budget, which they can find out how it fits immediately. And the second is the experiment console, which allows them to watch every single cage and every single animal in their experiment immediately and continuously 24/7, including all the metrics that are rolling off from the sensors and from the analyses of these metrics. And the third is our analytics studio, where the researchers can compare information from, say, one arm of an experiment to the other arm of the experiment, and be able to draw conclusions, not 6 or 8 weeks after their experiment is over, but even partway through the experiment, they can see something is starting to work in one of their compounds really well, and decide that they want to kick off another study to expand on that particular dose range or compound, et cetera.
Last, there's the Vium disease research models. Can you explain what those are, and how many therapeutic areas do you cover?
So what we do is take models that have been developed in other contexts, and we put them in our digital vivarium and develop new insights from them. So we've done this in a number of therapeutic areas, including rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, lupus, and we're working in a number of adjacent areas, extending out into liquid cancers, lymphoma, leukemia. We're doing a lot of work in health span, looking at the aging process in animals and inferring how that relates to aging in humans. To give you an example of how this works, let me tell you a little bit about our digital arthritis model that Vium's developed. Well, in the traditional way of running one of these studies, you inject a mouse or a rat with collagen, and their joints swell up, and this mimics arthritis. And then you give drugs, and you see if you either prevent or cure the disease. And the way this is traditionally assessed is by taking a pair of calipers and measuring the size of the little tiny mouse joints. You actually go up to the ankles and see how big they are in millimeters. And this is highly dependent on how it's done, who does it. Even the same person doing it repeatedly will get different results. What we've done is automated that whole process by finding that as the animals develop arthritis, their movement patterns in the cage change. And we can assess this because we have 24/7 HD video of the animals, and we use computer vision to track and characterize their activity. And with this, what we're able to do is assess the state of arthritis in these animals without ever taking them out of the cage, without using the human labor, which has cost and time associated with it, without stressing the animals out. And importantly, we can do it at scale now. We can do it on many more animals because we removed the operator variability and automated it so that now you can actually use this animal model in a new way. You can test an entire library of compounds, find the one that's effective, and use that to advance your program more rapidly.
Any sense on how the FDA might look at data generated in this way?
I think the FDA is going to love it, and people we've talked to around the agency say that they think that this will become the standard in a number of years. Look, the FDA's job is to protect the public welfare, and this gives researchers, drug companies, a way to detect more subtle effects before they get into humans. We've seen side effects in the animal models that normally wouldn't show up until you get into the clinic, and that's tremendously important. Also, because we generate an automatic auditable record of everything that occurs in a study, you can come back later and know that the study was run according to protocol, and that's exactly the sort of question that the FDA often asks.
You've been able to raise money from some well-known names. How much have you raised to date, and how far will the funding take you?
We've got about $33 million into the company to date. We're very well capitalized at this point. Our focus at this point is really on the public launch and delighting our customers as we go through launch. Our funders are deep-pocketed, and they have promised to stand behind us as we transform this very significant part of the drug development process.
You are just launching now. To what extent are researchers using this technology?
We've been in an invitation-only beta for the past year where we've worked with a number of researchers across small and big pharma, academia, different types of animal models. We've got thousands and thousands, probably approaching millions of cage days of data at this point that validates the system. Now we're ready to open it up to the world and to let the drug development community and the academic community in general have access to it. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do.
Ultimately, how do you see this changing R&D for drug development? What's the payoff?
If we are able to move experiments faster because people don't have to wait for their experiments to end and be written up in order to get their conclusions, that trims time off the drug development process, which is currently on the order of up to 15 years for any given drug. And that means that patients who need these therapies are waiting and not getting cures. The part of the process is the money that's spent on doing trials on the wrong drugs and having to wait for another trial to start with hopefully the right drug. And there's a lot of human misery involved in being involved in a trial that isn't on a good compound. And it's our job to help make sure that only the right drugs, the best possible candidates, get into trials.
Tim Robertson, co-founder and CEO of Vium, and Joe Betts-Lacroix, co-founder and CTO of Vium. Thank you both for your time today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.